Smith Show starts right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up is always the 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. Because Duke, what a big-time game against Central Florida that was in the NCAA tournament last night. Zion Williamson is the real deal. We hope and pray that the New York Knicks or the Los Angeles Lakers will end up grabbing him in the upcoming NFL draft. The NFL draft lottery will determine that more likely than anything else. Obviously, that's something to get into. Of course, the Lakers have been eliminated from postseason competition. There are some quotes from LeBron to get into. The biggest news going on is Rob Gronkowski for the New England Patriots and how at 29 years of age, he has decided to retire from the sport of professional football. And we'll get into that in just a second. Forgive me for taking a left turn, though, and not starting with the obvious, because Rob Gronkowski would be the obvious, and the NCAA tournament will be the obvious, and I will get to that in just a second. I just got a couple of things on my mind I want to get off my chest. Because I'm pretty ticked off about it, and I am in a very, very good mood. But since something I read happened to annoy me, I'd rather get that out of the way first so I can go on with the rest of the show being in a slightly better mood. Because we all know that usually when I'm doing this show, I have attitude. And I'm unapologetic about that. Because I'll be the first to tell you, the first thing I think about is who's getting on my damn nerves. And after I figure that out and I get at them, then after that, I'll move on. Well, here's who's getting on my nerves right now. It'll be a combination of two people. It'll be John Mara and Steve Tisch for the New York Giants. You know, listen, you want to sit up there, you want to continue to bloviate in an attempt to justify your decision to trade Odell Beckham Jr. just a year after giving them about $95 million, about guaranteeing them $65 million, about giving them a $20 million signing bonus. Just 1 year or less than 1 year later, you decide that you want to let him go, and you want to let him go to the Cleveland Browns, even though, according to our very own Adam Schefter, there were several teams out there saying that they had a better offer on the table than what the Cleveland Browns offered the New York Giants and what the Giants ultimately accepted, which is a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and safety Jabril Peppers. You want to sit up there and act like you were justified in getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr., even though he was going to still cost you $20 million of dead cap space money? That's fine. That's fine. But I would deeply, deeply appreciate it if the New York Giants, who has been renowned as being a first-class organization, incredibly upstanding, would stop lying to our face. I mean, have some shred of decency. Could you do that? Could you stop lying to our face? Do you not understand, Mr. Morrow? Do you not understand, Mr. Tisch, that no matter how ticked off you claim you are, when you listen to the media and football aficionados questioning what Eli Manning brings to the table, do you not understand what damn fools you look like? Mr. Murray, you went on record. And in the process of singing Eli Manning's praises, Mr. Mara, did you realize that you confessed that when you called your grandchildren and told them boys that you were trading Odell Beckham Jr., you joked that both of them cried and that one of them still ain't speaking to you, if I remember what I read correctly? It's what you said. It's what you said. Now, you could make the argument that they were crying because, oh, my God, they're going to miss Odell Beckham Jr., who was their favorite player, why you were reticent and reluctant to move him, according to the reports. But if you're really telling the truth, they probably cried when you sat there and said, we're going to place our faith in Eli Manning. And let me be the first to say this to Mr. Dave Gettleman, the general manager for the New York Giants, and Mr. Tisch and Mr. Mara. Gentlemen, you really need to guard what you're saying. This is New York City. And there's a standard that we'd like for you to live up to. You are the gold standard, by the way. I don't know about it, JC. I don't know about it, John. Is it just me? Eli Manning has missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years. What am I missing? What am I missing? Jonathan, do you know that this man has the temerity, the unmitigated gall? I'm talking about Mr. Mara here, to be quoted in the papers saying that, you know what? He's really offended and taken aback by people who would believe he would make an emotional decision as opposed to a football decision. Well, what else can it be, sir? What else can it be? What am I missing? I mean, the man has missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years. What am I missing? Are we making this up? Eli Manning has missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years and 8 times in the last 10. Since 2008, John, the New York Giants have made the playoffs twice. Now, they won a Super Bowl once, 2011, and obviously they won in 2007, of course. But since 2008, they've won 1 Super Bowl. They've been to the playoffs twice. They've missed the other 8 years of the postseason. JC, John, Nuno, Cat, somebody help me here. Is that justification to move on from a quarterback? Is that justification? I mean, at some point in time, as New Yorkers, don't y'all have to stand up? Don't you have to stand up? Mr. Mara, with all due respect, what the hell are you talking about? We just making up what we see with Eli Manning overthrowing 1 minute, underthrowing another? We're making it up when we view him as a stationary target? Snails can't get arthritis. But Eli Manning's so damn slow, he looks like a snail with arthritis. He can't move. Eli Manning is one of those rare quarterbacks, Jonathan. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's one of those rare quarterbacks that I've seen go down at the sight of a pass rush. He doesn't even have to get hit. Eli Manning goes down before he gets hit. Now, this past year was an upgrade compared to what we've seen in recent memory from Eli Manning, to be fair. He completed 66% of his passes. That was a career best. Because if you've been paying attention to Eli Manning throughout his career, 48, 52, 57, 56, 60, 62, 62, 61, 59, 57, 63, 62, 63, 61%. And last year was a career best 66% from the, in terms of his completion percentage. Ladies and gentlemen, Eli Manning has been in the league since 2004. Last season was the first time he ever completed better than 63% of his passes. Does anybody have any idea how pathetic that is? Now, that's not to say it's entirely his fault. And that's not to say he's not a member of the First Family. And it's not to say he's not class personified. And it's not to say that you shouldn't support him in every way that you can. He does have 2 Super Bowl championships on his resume. And I totally get that. But to talk about him as if he is an untouchable and to proclaim it's just about football reasons when you have missed the playoffs 8 times in the last 10 years, Mr. Morrow, with all due respect, you are spitting in the face of New Yorkers while saying it's raining. It's offensive, sir. It's offensive. And I'm just going to say this. You shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be saying that. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I wanted to get to something else, too, because I got New York on my mind on this particular day before I get into a whole bunch of other stuff, okay? This is what I want to get into. John, do we have that sound from a Noah Syndergaard for the New York Mets? And if we don't have it, it's okay. Noah Syndergaard, when healthy, is a stud. Health has been an issue for him, no question about it. But he's an absolute stud. The brother can ball. He's a hell of a pitcher when healthy. But he's no Jacob deGrom. He's no Cy Young Award winner, not like this kid is. Jacob deGrom last year had a 1.70 ERA in 32 starts as a pitcher. And his record was only 10-9. What that tells you is he got absolutely positively no run support whatsoever. But he was still an ace. I mean, 217 innings pitched. 269 strikeouts. And when you look at him and what he brings to the table, there is no doubt that Jacob deGrom is a sensational pitcher. Somebody that the Nets should value. So you would think that with Chris Sale getting about $30 million a year, or with Justin Verlander signing a 2-year, $66 million deal, and both of them, in one case, you're pitching for the reigning defending World Series champions in Boston. In the other case, you're a year removed from winning the World Series in Houston. You would think that a moribund franchise like the New York Mets, perpetual stepchildren to the New York Yankees. Your only claim to fame in New York, as far as I'm concerned, is that Don Juan LaGreca is a fan. And you got the nerve to be holding out on paying Jacob deGrom? You got the nerve to hold out on rewarding this man, his money, his contract extension? If I were Jacob deGrom, I'd tell you to kick rocks. I'd pull my pants down probably and moon you on purpose. I mean, I'm going to say it, Jonathan. It ain't the most popular thing in the world. Figuratively speaking, I'd probably pass gas in the face of the Mets franchise if I was Jacob deGrom. How dare you not pay this man? Who the hell do you think you are? Who's this guy? Van Wagenen? That's his name, John? The new GM for the Mets? Who the hell do you think you are? Pay this man. He's all you got. He's all you got. But for those of you who don't want to listen to me, who might think this is Stephen A. on an emotional tirade, let's listen to his teammate, Noah Syndergaard, Thor, speak up on his behalf. Listen to this.
That's a different situation. I'm just going to kind of sit back and let it all unfold how it is. I think Jake's best pitcher in baseball right now. I think he deserves whatever amount he's worth. I think, I want to keep him happy. So when it does come time for him to reach free agency, he stays on our side, pitching for the Mets. I think they should quit all this fuss and pay the man already.
Amen, brother. Amen. And it's beautiful to hear a teammate coming to his defense. It's one thing to do it for a contemporary that's not on your team, because obviously you want players to get taken care of, et cetera, and that can mean more for you down the road. But this is Noah Syndergaard. And it's one of those situations where if you're playing for the Mets, if one person gets paid, it might force you not to get paid. You never know. And I don't have Noah Syndergaard's contract situation in front of me, but that's not the point. The fact of the matter is, when you got a stud like Jacob deGrom, you pay him. You pay him. This is why the Nets have spent the vast majority of their franchise history stinking up the joint. Once again, other than Jacob deGrom, you know that you're a pathetic franchise when all you've got is Don Juan LaGreca. And I don't say that to knock Don. That's my buddy, my brother. I love him. I'm not talking. I'm just saying he's not playing. He's a commentator. I mean, John, I'm not playing, John. I'm saying it's a legitimate argument that can be made that the only thing relevant about the Mets, other than Jacob deGrom pitching for them, is that Don Juan LaGreca is a big fan of this. That's it. Michael K's co-host, 98.7 FM. For those of you throughout this country that might not know who the great Don Juan LaGreca is, you should know. Mr. Hockey. Also an incredible, knowledgeable Mets fan. Contaminating himself and his life rooting for this pathetic franchise. You gotta be kidding me. The hell you think you are not to take care of Jacob deGrom? Pox on your damn house. Pay him. Back to the land of the living. Rob Gronkowski, New England Patriots. He has decided to call it quits. For those of you who do not know, Rob Gronkowski, three-time Super Bowl champion, in some people's eyes, the greatest tight end to have ever played football. We know about those 81 receptions. I think it was like 81 receptions, like 12 touchdowns in his postseason career. Career cut too short at age 29 thinking about his health. Knee injuries, elbow injuries, back injuries, etc. The punishment that he has had to absorb, the things that he has been subjected to, he's decided to call it a career. Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, who did a fabulous job with Antonio Brown, by the way, said that Rob definitely could end up playing again. He wouldn't rule it out, but he has officially retired, etc., etc. I would tell you, the bottom line is simple. Rob Gronkowski has had so many injuries in his career. You can't blame him. He's retiring after 9 seasons, 79 receptions, third most in NFL history, before age 30, trailing only Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. Also keep in mind that Rob Gronkowski, when he does go into the Hall of Fame, might be one of the top 3 youngest guys in the history of the sport to go in the Hall of Fame. I think behind Jim Brown and one other guy who I don't remember at this particular moment in time. Let me say this. This discussion as to whether or not Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end to have ever played football, it's a worthy discussion, warranted by his multifaceted skill set. You can put him on either side of the line of scrimmage at the tight end spot. You can put him as a wideout. You can ask him to run rights in between the seams or outside the numbers. You can have him running in motion out of the backfield. And obviously, he was a highly successful and exceptional blocker. He welcomed the challenge of assisting the offensive line in blocking to facilitate a better running game. It's not an accident why James White and others for the New England Patriots performed well when Rob Gronkowski was on the field, and why they had a prolific running attack in New England. Sony Michel and all of those boys, because Rob Gronkowski was one of those dudes blocking at the line of scrimmage. The guy is sensational. There's no question about it. Here's my issue, ladies and gentlemen. I am in no position to sit up there and tell you that he should be considered a better tight end than Tony Gonzalez. I'm in no position to do that. If you really, really look at it and you see what Rob Gronkowski brings to the table, over 700 receptions, well, Tony Gonzalez has damn near triple that amount. You look at Rob Gronkowski, over 7,000 yards receiving. Tony Gonzalez over 15,000 yards. I'm looking at a guy like Rob Gronkowski who's had Tom Brady throwing the football to him his entire career. We look at Tony Gonzalez. Yeah, Rich Gannon, Trent Green, Damon Heward, Elvis Gerbach. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, a legitimate argument could be made, and Rich Gannon once could ball until he was beyond his prime. But a legitimate argument could be made. Tony Gonzalez didn't have a real quarterback throwing him the football until he got to Atlanta when Matt Ryan was there. A legitimate argument could be made at that. I mean, that's just the truth. So when you try to compare him, if you want to do like this, let me tell you the greatest argument that you can make for Rob Gronkowski being in the discussion for the greatest quarterback. First of all, there is no argument. He's clearly in the discussion. The question is whether or not he's the greatest ever. Ozzie Newsome, Shannon Sharp, Tony Gonzalez, etc. I mean, it's some choices to pick from. John Mackey back in the day. I mean, there's choices to pick from. But the bottom line is this. When you look at it from the standpoint of Rob Gronkowski, here's the greatest argument you can make. Using a basketball analogy, he's the Bill Walton of football. Bill Walton only played 10 years in the NBA. The last 2 didn't really count. The first 4 really, really counted when he got at the Portland Trailblazers to an NBA championship after they were down 2-0 to Dr. J. Julius Erving and those boys in Philadelphia in the 77 NBA Finals, and then Walton took over. Here's the reality. Bill Walton never averaged more than 18 points a game in his professional career. Last 2 seasons, he averaged around 7. Bill Walton didn't play half the years Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played. Nearly half the years is Wilt Chamberlain. But Bill Walton, there is no way that you could talk about the great, great centers in the history of the NBA. From Mikan to Chamberlain and Jabbar to Lanier and Artis Gilmore to Shaq and some of those guys weren't great. They were good, but they weren't great. But the great ones like Shaq and these boys. Bill Walton's in the discussion of greatness. Of course, we can't forget the ultimate champion, Bill Russell. Bill Walton is in the discussion as one of the greatest because his skill set was so surreal. You looked at him and all you saw were injuries in his way. There was no question based on how he performed on the court when healthy, even in pivotal situations, of his greatness. It's just that the tenure wasn't long enough because he was saddled with injuries. That's the same thing you can say about Rob Gronkowski. But that's about it. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Whole bunch of stuff to get into, and I'm not going anywhere. It's just me and y'all today. I want to talk to my listeners, so I'm here all day long until 3 o'clock anyway, the next 2 hours. Don't touch that dial. It's Stephen A. right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, by the way. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. If you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from ButcherBox, guess what? You're going to be blown away. ButcherBox brings you the meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. And that's very, very important, people, especially the God-fearing individuals such as myself. From grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska, ButcherBox has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from customizable boxes and a variety of options to choose from. And ButcherBox comes at an affordable price as well. With free shipping, you can get a month's worth of the best tasting meat from ButcherBox for less than $6 a meal. Now think about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. A month's worth of best tasting meat. Free shipping for less than $6 a meal. Think about how much money you spend on nonsense. And now here you are in a position to spend money, feasibly so, on good, healthy, wholesome meat. Think about that. ButcherBox is offering my listeners free ground beef for the life of your subscription and $20 off your first box when you sign up at butcherbox.com/Stephen A. Don't miss out on this special offer at butcherbox.com/Stephen A. That's butcherbox.com/Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V.